Hi there, and welcome back to the Life with Old Dogs podcast. I'm your host, Dawn Mimnall, and today I am here with Harmony Diers. She is the communications manager with the Dog Aging Project, and I am so excited to have her here today. Um, Harmony is going to share information with us about the Dog Aging Project, what it is, their mission, why it's important to not only our dogs, but us as well. And also, in the end, she's going to tell you how you can sign your dog up for the project if you so choose. So, Harmony, welcome. I'm so happy to have you here.
Thank you, Dawn. It's a pleasure for me to be here. I think the work that you do at Woody's Place is incredible for the senior companions. I'm a German Shepherd lover, and I've been owned by a few in my lifetime. So I'm very happy to be here and share the message of the Dog Aging Project.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. So, Harmony, can you tell us a little about yourself and how you came to be involved with the Dog Aging Project?
Certainly. So I've always loved dogs, have always had dogs that were members of my family. And as a child, I wanted to be involved in veterinary medicine. And so out of high school, I became a veterinary technician. And for many, many years, probably 20 years before I joined the Dog Aging Project, I was a vet tech working with small animals, exotic wildlife. And in the final stretch of my clinic floor time, if you will, as a vet tech, I worked in oncology. And I would have to say that working with the dogs and their families in such a important moment in that dog's life in oncology and receiving treatment for cancer was just very important to me. A lot of bonding with families and the dogs. You have, the same patients week after week, and so it was an important time to bond with and get to know these families and become a part of their dog's journey. Um, in about 2019, I had been considering potentially leaving the clinic floor. Veterinary technicians, just like everyone in that community, the veterinary community, you work very hard. And I wanted to be involved with animals in a professional capacity, but was looking for something a little bit different. And I discovered the Dog Aging Project, and I've been with the communications team since 2019. I've seen the Dog Aging Project grow from just a handful or a very few thousand, less than 10,000 dogs, well up to over 50,000 dogs enrolled now across the United States. And we are just so thankful to have the participants that we do, the companions and their family, and we enjoy learning all about them.
That is phenomenal. It really is. And it really must have taken courage to take that leap after being in the veterinary, like in the trenches, really, for as long as you were.
It was an emotional decision, I have to say. In my day-to-day with the Dog Aging Project, I don't do a lot of hands-on work with actual companions in real life. I have several dogs at home, and I'm able to get my love and my feel and my hands on whenever I'm at home, but it is a bit different. So it was an emotional decision to leave, but it was what was best for me at that time. And then getting immersed in this project, I am just so proud to be a part of it. That is the common theme, no matter the position of someone on the Dog Aging Project team, whether you're a veterinarian, a researcher, someone who works in administrations, logistics, communications. That is the common theme. Everyone loves dogs and everyone wants them to live healthier for longer. And so it was a no-brainer. I'm just, it was a great transition, but yes, one that was filled with emotion.
Wow. I'm sure. And I agree. Everybody loves dogs and wants them to live longer. I know we do. So can
That's
you
right.
can you tell us can you give us an overview of what the Dog Aging Project is?
Yes, the Dog Aging Project is what's called a longitudinal observational research study. And we are a collaboration between Texas A&M University and the University of Washington, as well as a lot of other institutions across the country. But those University of Washington and Texas A&M are probably the largest players currently. We enroll dogs into this project and learn about, and these are companion dogs that live their best lives at home. Um, we uh, we get started through a series of surveys. So we want to get to know you initially. Once you sign up, there's an introductory survey where we get to, briefly get to know you and your dog. Then, once you complete that survey to get in the system, so to speak, we then send you a longer survey. It's very important. It's called the Health and Life Experiences Survey. And you have, participants have up to 40 days to complete this survey. It is one that's complete, pardon me, it is one that is repeated annually. And the questions that we ask are all about your dog. Questions about their environment, questions about the diet they eat, questions about what sort of medical care they're involved in, if it's routine medical care or if they have a chronic illness and they get more regular medical care. And there are there's many factors we look at. So we compare these answers to these surveys year after year to identify trends in aging. And we want to know as a project what leads to the dogs that are longer and healthier lived for a more extended period of time than other dogs. We've all um, known people who have the German Shepherd that might pass away at 12 years of age. Then someone else might say, my German Shepherd made it to be 16. And there's so many other examples of that, whether it be a mixed breed dog or a purebred, whether they're spayed and neutered or not spayed and neutered. There's just so many factors that we look at. And again, our researchers compare this data year after year, and the ultimate goal is to share insights on the ability to prevent, treat, and diagnose certain health conditions in dogs. And the first part of that is identifying what causes these differences in the aging process in our companions.
In our companions and then in us as well, because dogs live similar lives to us. They live in the same environment as us, but they age faster than us. So what you're
That's
learning
a,
about,
that's a great point.
yeah, what you're learning about these dogs is not only beneficial to us as dog parents to help extend our furry family's life, but it also extends into us and our health and treatment in the future, upping the game of treatment in the future. So, for instance, if a dog
Yes,
has diabetes, it's can be very similar to a person with diabetes. So, I think this is like a two-pronged study here, really.
it is. And that is the hope that the information that we can learn about the aging process in dogs can be translated to humans. So I'm glad you brought that up because, yes, dogs share so many of the things that we do, whether it be environment, diet, advanced medical care. So, yes, absolutely. Transitional research is very important.
Absolutely. I have a friend who is a supervisor on a golf course. And he has been for decades. And I've often pointed out to him with whatever they're using to spray the grounds, he needs to be careful about. And he has Labrador retrievers, loves his Labrador retrievers, goes the extra mile. I mean, his wife is a veterinarian, just everything for these dogs. And unfortunately, his beautiful boy passed away at only 7 years old from cancer, and my first thought was, unfortunately, it's what he's breathing in on the grounds, the golf course grounds. I mean, they're sprayed so heavily with, pesticides, um,
Yeah.
and the dogs are lower to the ground and they're rolling around in it. And I think about stuff like that all the time. People spraying Roundup even on their own personal
Yes.
properties. I mean, it's awful
Right.
for our dogs. Even inside the home, using some heavily, like, just full of chemicals, all-purpose cleaner, and you're mopping the floor, and then the next thing you know, your dog's licking their paws after they've been all over that floor.
Yes.
Right? These are things that
Right.
really need
Absolutely.
to be taken into consideration.
Yes, and the areas that you brought up of importance, that is information that we collect in our
Mhm.
environmental section of our surveys, and the researchers will continue to look at links to environmental contaminants and the health of our companions.
Yes. And again, it's not only important for them, but for us as well. I signed Sasha up for people who follow along with Woody's Place and the Life with Old
Yeah.
Dogs. They know that Sasha is my personal German Shepherd that I just happened to fall into because of a hoarding situation. So she is officially 8 months old now, and I signed her up. And I have to tell you, I actually loved doing the survey because as a dog parent, we have a tendency to just want to talk about our dogs to anyone who will
Yes,
listen, really.
right.
So
That's right.
kind of self-indulgent. I was just like, "Oh, yeah, blah 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 blah," going on,
Yeah.
answering the questions to a T because I just wanted to talk about Sasha. So it was
I
actually
love
fun.
that. And I thank you, first of all, for enrolling Sasha. Our enrollment is ongoing. There can never be enough dogs in the dog aging project. So enrollment is ongoing. And we are so happy to have Sasha as a member of our pack. And you mentioned the interest and the enthusiasm we have to share our dog stories, whether it be a gotcha story or a funny story, or it's even therapeutic once we're ready to discuss the life of our dogs after they've left us. And it's just every component of our dogs is just wonderful for us to talk about. And once people join the dog aging project, we have we're a community science project. We love everyone getting involved. And we have a forum called the Dog Park, and we have many great members of the forum. And there are all sorts of channels to talk about many different things. So we engage our participants a lot of different ways and try to capture that enthusiasm for the interest in sharing about our beloved dogs.
We actually joined your dog park, Sasha and I, and I've been on
Ah,
there a few times and I do love it. And there's,
amazing.
in addition to sharing stories, there's a lot of good information too being passed
Right.
around. So for people who have their dogs, who love their dogs, who are interested in participating in this study about dog longevity, it is so much more than that. And I really do like that camaraderie of sharing this experience with other people who love their dogs and want to be a part of this and make lives better down the road for future fur friends that they may have, which I believe is what this project is doing.
Yeah, thank you. And you again, another example of how amazing that forum is and how helpful it can be. One important thing to mention about the dog aging project, again, we're learning about your dog from a distance. So even though we have veterinarians on our team, we don't specifically have a doctor-patient relationship with your dog. And so a lot of people are very curious about, getting questions answered about what health problem might be going on with their companions. And without that direct relationship, we can't specifically diagnose or offer advice. So that's where the community of veterinarians that we work with beyond the dog aging project, the veterinarians of the companions enrolled, the family vets. We partner with those guys too as a extension of our community of volunteers and researchers. The family veterinarians mean so much to us. We typically will say, Dr. So and so is definitely going to have more of an in-depth relationship with your companion in person. So, please check in with them. Let us know that we'd like to have a follow-up on what's going on with your companion. So we really have a high touch communication experience to offer the families that are enrolled in the dog aging project.
Absolutely. I'm curious, what are the statistics on? So this is a 10-year study, already 5 years in, but as you were saying when we were off camera, um, the dog aging project would like to keep the ball rolling after the
Mhm.
end of the 10 years, which makes perfect sense. Um, how many people, what is the percentage of people who actually stay in the dog aging project and complete those surveys annually?
I don't have that exact number, but I would tell you that our attrition levels are very low. We probably have 80%, 70 to 80% of people that stay actively engaged. And we're always looking for ways to increase that engagement, increase the participation. Pardon me. And we, do that in ways not only from being informative, but because we want participants to know that though this is the ultimate act of volunteerism, these are volunteers. These dog owners are volunteers and they are sharing their time, their information. And because we're open data, meaning we share our findings with not only the families of the dogs enrolled, but the veterinary community, the community abroad. We don't want the ability to understand extending the lives of our dogs to solely be left with the dog aging project. We want it to be, community wide, worldwide. So, from the information that we learned from all the surveys and that our researchers, analyze the data on, we are regularly sharing research papers on certain, statistics and facts that we're finding. And we present those papers, and then we also create blogs for sort of an easier to digest piece of information. So a research paper is published, then we create a blog for a shorter, more to the point read. And of course, those are found on our website as well, the dogagingproject.org. But we like to show our participant population that look, what you are sharing with us and what you're volunteering your time for is truly resulting in findings that are going to help the future of our companions.
I wholeheartedly agree with that. Being someone and folks for Woody's Place in Life with All Dogs, I actually did sign Sasha up. We are participating in this study. The resource page is phenomenal. The blog postings are phenomenal. So they are, like you said, to the point. Because honestly, I read a lot of empirical reviews and studies for a whole separate life that I have. And as you know, it can that something like that can be so dry and just hard to digest. And you get a few paragraphs
Absolutely.
in and 1,000 citations in, you're just like, oh, I can't even read anymore. So to have this information taken from that and to put into words that my mom who's almost 80 years old could read and totally understand is really key, because not only are you getting the information you need about dogs aging, we as consumers, if you will, are getting this phenomenal information that can help our dogs live longer. So again,
A
it's a
return
win-win. Yeah.
a return on the investment of volunteering, right? That we find that very important because everyone is so busy. Everyone leads very busy lives. And the fact that we have such a committed participant pool is incredible. And so we are just so thankful, and we want to continue to improve and create, even more exciting ways to engage with our participants. We about every couple of months we have YouTube videos where and they're live, and we are either, we cover a lot of different topics, like whether it be, there's some activities that you can do in the dog aging project, ways to, monitor how your dog's memory is over the course of the year. So we might have a researcher on in charge of that project to discuss, what the 1, 2, 3 treat activity is all about. And we can answer questions live, that topic, and then so many more. We've even spoken with someone who worked with dogs at the Iditarod. So we try to make it exciting and fun, and
Wow.
want to give back to our community of the participants.
Yeah, and I feel like you're doing just that, really. So a lot of our people who follow along with Woody's Place and the Life with Old Dogs are they subscribe to veterinarians and people such as Dr. Karen Becker, Dr. Judy Morgan, Rodney Habib, and life longevity for dogs and even cats at this point. Quite a few people are interested in home cooking for their dogs and getting away from commercial based foods simply because we're now more educated and we're realizing this is highly processed, this is not good for our dogs. But we've been so brainwashed into believing through marketing techniques that that's the only thing that our dog needs. And I just started, well, it was years ago, really. I was like, it's like feeding our dog a box of cereal, the same cereal every day, every meal, their entire lives. No wonder they're not living as long as they once did. This is terrible. We need to get
Sure.
away from this. So a lot of our folks subscribe to that, and I'm so happy because to me it's a giant eye opener. And to me, this dog aging project just reinforces that, especially with what I was reading in some of the blog posts. And I'm just so pleased to hear. To me, it's like, oh my God, thank God, somebody's getting it. Somebody's getting it. Um, because again, these giant conglomerate corporations who really have no business in feeding our dogs, our beloved fur family, um, we need to hear something else. We need to hear something else, and we need to have proof that, hey, we can do better than this commercial ultra processed junk. And here are some studies to help show you
Sure.
there are other ways. There are other ways. So yeah, the blog posts are fantastic. I've only gotten through a couple though.
No, yeah, there's quite a few. So there's a lot of reading to be done. Absolutely.
Hmm. Um, so you have dogs. I've heard them barking in the background, and
Yes.
you had a German Shepherd that I guess you
Yes.
recently just had to say goodbye to. Can you tell us a little bit about him?
I would love to. Yes. Oh boy was just the center of the family. I have to say, we lost him about 3 weeks ago, so it is a little bit fresh. As we know, those of us who have lost companions, you go through a process of grieving. And
Mhm.
when we, and he has a wonderful story, but I just want to reiterate that I'm ready to talk about his story. I probably wouldn't have been about 15 days ago, but I'm in the place of reflection now where it is all about appreciating the time and the quality of time we had together for so many years. Um, Oh Boy was a rescue dog that had a very interesting career as a explosives detection dog. And so he was trained at an Air Force base. This is long before I met him, but he was trained at an Air Force base here in Texas. And for explosives detection specifically, he was paired with a bomb squad officer from LAPD, Los Angeles Police Department, and that was probably back in 2011. And back in those days, and I can't speak to what the police department's training protocol for canine officers is now, but back in those days, the officers that were ready to, start going on patrol with their dogs were actually sent to the Air Force Base to train with their dogs, and they got to pick the dog they wanted to be their canine partner. So, oh boy, saddled up, if you will, with his partner, and after being trained at Lackland, and went on to have a 3 or 4 year career as an explosives detection dog at LAPD. His career, he was retired a little bit earlier than a lot of dogs because he had degenerative disc disease. It's not uncommon in German Shepherds. And and then I was able to adopt him. He was, and we were so proud to be able to do that. As a working dog, his physical limitations were an issue. However, being a dog that comes home to be a family dog, he was in perfect health for us. He could go on walks and he could fetch the ball and do, anything that he wanted to do in a normal family situation. So we adopted Oh Boy in 2014. And interestingly, I was pregnant at the time, and my husband was a little bit worried. He's thinking, we're going to have a baby soon, and we're bringing in this big dog. And what if his working drive is too high? And I said, well, let's just see how it goes. I have all the faith in the world that it's going to work out. And boy, it did. He's just an amazing dog. My son has autism and is, very kind with animals, but can be kind of an excited little boy. Our German Shepherd, oh boy, was so gentle and so kind, and was just, the perfect family member for so many years. And he lived to be about 15 years old. And we're just so thankful to have had the opportunity to adopt a retired working dog. He was brilliant, he was kind, he was strong, and never be another one just like him.
And that's usually the way that it is. He sounds like he was absolutely fantastic, and what a story. Absolutely a
Yeah,
wonderful story, from the fact that he
thank
goes
you.
from bomb sniffing dog to wonderful with children with autism. I mean, you can't ask for more than that, really, except
I
for that he
know.
was a
We're
fantastic
so
boy.
yeah,
Mhm,
we're so thankful for all the years we had with him.
mhm. That's wonderful, and thank you for sharing that story, and for those of you who are wondering, I did ask prior to this whether Harmony was wanting to speak about her beautiful boy or not, so just so you know. But thank you for sharing
Yes.
that. So was he a participant in the I'm sorry, the dog aging project?
He was my enrolled companion. And as a team member of the Dog Aging Project, our experience looks a little bit different. Our useful information on the surveys is all used for research. There are some smaller studies within the Dog Aging Project. Some where people that are interested can let us look at their dog's blood work every year. So the dogs of team members can't get enrolled in those smaller studies, but that's completely okay. We were able to contribute with activities and with the surveys and help push the data along in our from our little piece of the world, and we were very happy to be able to contribute what we did. And whenever, and just a note to say for all those who are wondering, if you're interested in enrolling a dog, it is one dog per household. which brings me to Oh Boy. Now that Oh Boy, has passed away, we actually now are allowing subsequent family member dogs to be enrolled. If a dog that you have enrolled is no longer with you for whatever reason, we are so happy to continue the journey with the second dog in the home. And so I will probably enroll my Pyrenees, Fiona, from here.
No, and quite interesting because here you will have two dogs that have lived in the same environment but could have very different lifespans. So that certainly
Yes.
adds an interesting element to the study or sub studies or what have you. So I think that that's fantastic that they're allowing that now. And yes, the sub studies, I have to get copies, not that she has much of Sasha's medical records to
Yeah.
send, and that is something I want to do. Again, like you said, you don't have to, but that is, I want to be as transparent as possible with her. She's willing,
Sure.
and just from what I know about my beautiful little girl, I know she's saying, "Sign me up for everything." So, we're going to.
Yeah. Great.
That's her
Thank you. That's
personality.
I love that. Thank you. We're excited to have you, you and Sasha.
And Sasha. So, Harmony, so you've said there's a little over 50,000 dogs in the study, and that's in the US, correct?
Yep, that's right. These are dogs within the United States. Currently, because of where our research institutions are, and for funding reasons, currently it is just dogs within the United States that can enroll right now.
Okay. And as far as the enrollment goes, it's dogs of all ages, breeds, health conditions, and lifestyles. There's no limitation because I thought before the cutoff was 7 years old. Am I mistaken there?
That's a great point that you bring up. For our largest part of the study, the observational longitudinal study, it is any dog of any age. They can have perfect health, they can have chronic disease, and everything in between. Puppies to the seniors. Now, again, I mentioned smaller studies earlier. We do have a clinical trial, and it is called the test of rapamycin in aging dogs. And it is a clinical trial. It's, a double-blind, placebo-controlled study on the use of a medication called rapamycin. And rapamycin in human medicine has been used to prevent organ transplant rejection. And in the human patients that took that, there were some improved cardiac function that was discovered in rapamycin. And in some of these smaller, laboratory animals, whether it be mice or, even invertebrates, rapamycin has been shown to slow aging changes. And so the test of rapamycin in aging dogs, or as we call it around here, triad, because that's a little bit easier to spit out.
Yes.
This is the third and the largest study looking at what rapamycin might be able to do to extend the lives of dogs. And in that particular study, there are a few factors, eligibility criteria. The dogs do need to be 7 years or older or 44 pounds and greater.
Okay.
And you can learn about the test of rapamycin in aging dogs on our website as well. We even have a quick form for people to fill out if they're interested. You can learn more about the study, and you can actually fill out a form to kind of evaluate your dog's current situation to see if they might be eligible for the clinical trial.
That's interesting. And I did see Triad on the website, and I'm going to include a whole bunch of information in the show notes, where to find you, your resources page, and and a link to Triad as well for those who may be interested in it. Now, um, if you want, let's just dig into that a little bit. So how does that work? So let's just say someone wants to sign their dog up for that. How does that work? Do
For the
they
clinical trial?
Yeah, yes, for the clinical
Okay.
trial.
Yeah, that's great. So for eligibility to be determined, a person who would be interested in finding out if their dog was eligible, you would still go through all the steps as you would if you were just going to be in the most broad part of the study, the dog aging project pack. You would still complete your introductory survey. You would complete your health and life experiences survey. Now, for the clinical trial, we have to receive a little bit more information. Where in the general, the general part of the study, receiving veterinary medical records are not necessary. They're not mandatory. When it comes to determining the eligibility for the clinical trial, however, we do need to look at about 3 years of veterinary history through records for your dog. And things that we're looking for, again, our eligibility criteria. We also want to make sure the dogs that are enrolled in the clinical trial, they don't need to be in perfect health, but some of the more major chronic illnesses would be a point of ineligibility just because there could be other medications going on, and they wouldn't be starting at particularly the same common stage of health as the other dogs in the clinical trial. And in trials, everyone really needs to be kind of starting out on basically the same foot, the same description of health, and so on. Again, that's only for the clinical trial. And we have electronic medical record reviewers that are reviewing records every day to find dogs that are, one, eligible, but two, even interested in the clinical trial. It's completely voluntary, and we are very forthcoming with all of the information. Dogs that are enrolled in the clinical trial, another piece of eligibility criteria is location. We have about 15 sites across the country that do the twice annual cardiac and neurological monitoring for that trial. But those that are included in the trial, they don't have to pay for those workups. That is at the cost of the study. And they do, there is the travel time involved. The website will share more factors and more information. But essentially, to get started, if the interest is the clinical trial, it would be to go through the same steps with the initial surveys and signing up for your portal. And then the rest is really in the hands of the research staff that starts reviewing their medical records. And from that review, if the family member of the dog has indicated they would like to know more about the clinical trial, then our team reaches out and they discuss next steps.
Okay. All right. So that's clear enough. Clear enough. The dog aging project, the big project is for everyone, regardless of
Yes.
age, breed, lifestyle, health condition. And then the triad, smaller clinical study is for
Yeah.
selected participants only. And that could be based on conditions, health conditions, or even location in the United States. Gotcha. Okay. That's
Yeah,
that's
and age and weight as well. And granted, if someone lives 4 hours and says, I will make that drive to a clinical trial site, that's completely fine. But that is just
yeah.
something to consider. Yes.
I can't remember when. It was several years back. I do know that. And we had Champ here at the sanctuary, and he was a sanctuary favorite, and everybody loved Champ. And he was selected to be a participant in that study, but there was nothing close by. There's nothing close by, period, but trees and woods. So
Okay.
I just couldn't make that trip. It was a few hours, and I just couldn't make that
Understandable.
trip. But I did want to
Right. And
participate.
some, yeah, and some dogs don't even want to travel that long. So we like to take all of that into consideration.
That would have been him, a poor champ. He would, he went to hydrotherapy, and that was an hour and 10 minutes one way, and we wouldn't even get 5 minutes down the road, and he would just be throwing up. By the time we got there, he was just exhausted
Oh,
because he was
oh
so car sick.
yeah.
Yeah, and we would try to do what we could, to make him comfortable, but
Right.
I don't even think it was 6 weeks in, and I just said, "You know what? It's not even worth it," because he's exhausted from vomiting by the time we get there. So, yeah,
And
absolutely.
you have to balance the benefit with everything else, right?
100%. And, I often think to myself, well, how would I feel in that situation? Probably not so great. So I'm
Right.
sure they don't either. But all right. Well, Harmony, this was fantastic. And I am honored to be able to help share information about the Dog Aging Project. I would implore anyone listening to this to sign your dog up. Really, it's not that difficult. Again, I did it with Sasha. We're doing it currently. It's not a big deal to go through that survey, not at all. And again, the Dog Park Forum is fantastic. The blogs on the website are fantastic. And it's just a plethora of information at your fingertips, basically for free. So go get some. Get some.
Thank you. It's a rewarding experience. It really is. It's a great community to be a part of. And Don, I want to thank you so much for the opportunity to come on and speak with your viewers about the Dog Aging Project. It's been a lot of fun. Thank